ask all present to please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We've got 3 items on the consent agenda this evening. We have approval of the minutes from the May 24th, 2021 board meeting and the June 14th, 2021 board meeting, along with the statement of receipts and expenditures for May of 2021. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
So moved.
Second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. All right, Jeff, on to action items, the superintendent's report.
Yes, so we've successfully completed the 2020-2021 school year, so our Stay Safe to Stay Open is a phrase that we will not use again unless it's in talking about the previous year. But as we finish the year, we do want to congratulate our Grafton High School athletes. So I've asked Mr. Moore, our athletic activities director, to come and talk about the spring sports season and an update with some students that are on here for the track and field that qualified and competed this past weekend.
Thank you. Spring sports has been completed as of Friday with state track. And speaking of track, we had the opportunity to send 19 total boys and girls, 19 athletes to the state track meet, which is the largest number that we've had in recent memory. Just some performers off of that squad would be Camille Murick in the high jump, Nathan Baker in the 3,200 meters. The girls 4x100 relay featuring Sophia Skolman, Ava Wilmans, Natalie Manuel, and Gwen Grumley. The girls 4x2, Natalie Manuel, Ava Wilmans, Grace Wieselman, and Gwen Grumley. Boys 4x100 relay, Sylvia Lanza, Zach Schmidt, Dom Voilin, and Kimante Cook. Boys 4x200 relay, Eric Navarrete, Zach Schmidt, Dominic Voilin, and Kimante Cook. The boys 4x400 relay, Eric Navarrete, Kimante Cook, Andrew Rose, and Christopher Calise. And the boys 4x800 relay featuring Christopher Calise, Cale Bod, Nathan Gents, and Nathan Baker. We finished as high as the girls 4x100, which finished 6th, but overall it was a great showing. There was a lot of great runs and a lot of PRs, which are personal bests that were run at the meet at La Crosse, and light drizzle, but overall a great day. Also, we'd like to recognize the golf team at this point, which won the regional championship, which we hosted at Fire Ridge, and finished 4th place at sectionals the week after. All conference honorees included Tyler Choi, who was 2nd team, and Daniel Schmitz, who was 3rd team, and then Tyler went on to become Grafton's first representative at the state meet in quite some time, and did the school quite proud by finishing 10th overall at Trapper's Turn in Wisconsin Dells. Shot an 80 on the first day and an 81 on the second day, which is safe to say much better than I could ever do. So great job by Tyler and Coach Phil Trottier, Coach Kriegel with the track and field team. And then I believe that some other spring sports are slated to be recognized at the July meeting, as some of the all-conference meetings and so on and so forth were delayed just a little bit by the pushback to the end of the season this year due to the WIA schedule.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you.
And also congratulations to John Long, Kennedy, and Woodview students and staff on being recognized by the Wisconsin RTI Center and Wisconsin DPI as silver level in the content area of behavior. We got letters from DPI recognizing all 3 groups, and silver means they're at full implementation or fidelity in one content area at the universal level for at least 2 years, and at the selected level for at least 1 year. So it's great to be recognized across the state for the work that they're doing to meet the needs of all students. And then also our Grafton Summer Learning Academy began on June 21st. So we are excited to have completed a full week and into our 2nd week with that. Session A runs through July 1st. We had 659 students enrolled in enrichment classes. Session B, then we take that 4th of July week off. That starts again July 12th through the 22nd. We have 626 students enrolled, and Session C is from July 26th through August 5th with 552 students enrolled. And there are additional 249 enrollments in academic classes, which may include some students that are in those enrichment classes. So it doesn't exactly add up exactly across the board, but it gives you an idea of the number of students that are in enrichment versus academic classes, and we're appreciative of all the work that our teachers are doing, both our current teachers that are in our district and then those from outside of our district that are substituting in to help our students have these sessions during the summer. And then the Grafton Educational Foundation, we want to thank them for all their support. They awarded teachers $75,608 in grants this year. They have an outdoor amphitheater and classroom over at Woodview and John Long. There's a virtual reality headsets and computers at the high school. then active floor at Kennedy, band music stands at the high school, flexible furniture and classroom seating at Kennedy and the high school, and German reading material at John Long and the high school. So you can see across the district there, we have teachers submitting grants, and for them to be rewarding $75,000 and $600 is great to help our students and our staff as they submit some of those innovative ideas that aren't necessarily in our budget. And so it's a way for them to support our students in an academics way, and we appreciate all their work as they just completed their night of giving. And then finally, wanted to update the board on where we are for our 21-22 school year planning meetings. So as a reminder, last year, at about this time, the process we followed is we'd told staff to not think about school until July 1st. We said on July 1st, we're going to start planning for next school year, and that worked out well. We met frequently in July in order to bring a recommendation to the board at the July meeting. But this year, although there aren't as many questions as there were last year, there are still some questions that need to be answered, still some processes need to be determined. So we did meet with, we didn't say take the rest of June off, we said instead of coming back, let's meet during those last PD days. So last year we met as a group. This year we broke them out into elementary teacher leaders and secondary teacher leaders. And the leaders that had joined us last year and gave us such great feedback over the course of those multiple meetings were the ones that we invited again. They'd given us great feedback that led to a successful plan, so we invited them again. And we covered really those three main areas that the board talked about at the May 24th board meeting. No face coverings required, virtual learning option only for students and families that apply or are approved for homebound type of application, and pre-COVID school schedules and routines, instructional practices, classroom furnishings, field trips and sports and activities. And we basically covered each one of them and asked, when you hear that, what does that mean to you? What are some of the things that you're excited about? What are the things that you may have a concern about? What does that bring a question to your mind that we should be thinking about? And Kara was there, took notes, and really very positive feedback from staff on all three of those areas. Some good probing questions for us to consider as we get together and continue planning. So we're taking those notes as a leadership team in July, having those discussions about that. The ultimate goal will be to bring something to the July 26th board meeting to have a recommendation to bring to the board. That will be our goal. Principals are working with building level leadership teams for some of those nuances that go with individual buildings or grade levels that may not be across the district. So the focus that we had was more across the district. Each building has their own routines or practices that they'll work with their building leaders to craft those plans for next year. And so we just wanted to update the board on where we are with our planning for next school year. We've engaged teachers already. As I said to them, if something else comes up as we continue to monitor cases and trends in our area, if we need to bring teachers back together, we will, or it's staff, it's teachers and support staff that were on those committees, then we will. But they really provided some good feedback for us that continues to provide us direction that the board had given us back in May as we looked ahead to next school year. And with that, that concludes my report.
Any questions for Jeff?
Jeff, just for perspective, in number 3 for the Summer Learning Academy, the numbers that we have there, how would that compare to not last summer, but the summer before?
So I'd ask, yep, Laura has that. Yep.
A little bit lower.
Like, do you remember how many? We talked about this last week.
Yeah, we did. It's probably about 200 lower compared to 2 years ago.
200 total? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any significant drop after the announcement about?
Face coverings being optional? Yeah.
I don't know. When we had some kids that were added and some that left, but I think there was only one family in particular that did it because of the face coverings.
We had one teacher who decided not to teach out of all of our teaching staff, and we actually found someone to replace that person. There's a couple classes that had to be canceled that were specialty classes, but overall it was very flat. Some came in, some left, and there's always a transition anyways, but it stayed very flat.
Thank you.
And kudos to Shireen Mortag, who runs that for us. Laura's worked with her, but Shireen put a ton of effort and time into this that helped us be successful as well.
I think that the board minutes appropriately reflected the board's direction and consensus regarding those 3 primary areas. Anyone hear of anything or wish to add to that list or modify that list in any way as they head into their planning? Just want to make sure that they have the most up-to-date and current direction possible. So I'm seeing a lot of heads that are nodding, indicating that we captured it well in those 3 bullets. All right, thank you. Any last questions for Jeff? Now, let's move on to, thank you, Jeff. Let's move on to committee reports. The Curriculum Committee and the Finance Committee.
Public comment.
Oh, sorry, public comment. Anyone here tonight wishing to speak in the public comment section, feel free to come on up and do so as you see fit. We just need your name and address. All right, seeing none, we'll move on then to committee reports. Both Curriculum and Finance Committees met on June 14th, and Carrie is unable to be here tonight, but Joe will give us a recap on the Curriculum Committee work.
Okay, so we met on June 14th, and what we discussed was textbook adoption recommendations. Throughout the past year, the teacher teams at Grafton High School have been completing textbook reviews in certain areas, and after the reviews, recommendations came about in the following subject areas: AP Physics, Ancient History, and Medieval History, and Welding. The teachers did a great job with the in-depth presentations on the textbooks, digital licenses, and other resources. And the Curriculum Committee recommended bringing this forward to the full board, but you'll be getting to this later on in the agenda for approval of the textbooks that were represented. The next thing we did was we had a grammar update for 6th through 12th grade. We have Patterns of Power, which is moving into the John Long Middle School, making it a 1st through 8th grade curriculum, and there will be professional development that will guide this implementation. And they did talk a little bit about 9th through 12th grade. There will be more resources to focus on direct instruction, particularly English 9, literature and composition, and English 10, American Lit and Comp. And there was also a SOAR update for John Long Middle School, and it was to focus on better on the whole student, flexibility for Tier 3 academic support, and enrichment options. So basically, Monday through Friday, the Tier 2 will remain the same, but a little more flexible. Tuesday through Thursday, they would shift from 6-week rotations to year-long homeroom assignments, and the homeroom teacher would monitor assignment completion, provide support, facilitate enrichment cycles that are also housed in Canvas. We also did get an in-depth presentation on the district library action plan, which you'll hear about later on for approval, hopefully by the full board. And last, we did have an update on the district coaching. I guess when the pandemic first started, we had the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction feature Grafton's culture of interdependence, and it focused on the coaching that we have here in the district with principal partnerships with the coaches and shared leadership, and how great it was to see how the coaching really enhances our schools, and a culture of collaboration through the professional learning community. So lots of good things are happening, and just want to say thanks. They did a really good job. And that was, I think that's what was about it.
Any questions for Joe? All right, then, Mark, a report out on the Finance Committee meeting.
So, so Finance met on the same night, Monday, June 14th. We had 3 agenda items, which are on the agenda for the full board this evening. First was the contract proposal for the Enhancing the Future Phase 2 project, or that phase of the project. We had Midwest representatives from Midwest Turf and Point of Beginnings with us to answer questions we had, and went through a lot of things with them, which was great to have them. Thank you, Topher, for arranging that. Good to have them there and directly have the ability to discuss things with them. So that is coming to the full board this evening. Also, we reviewed the property and casualty insurance renewal. That is coming to the full board for approval tonight with CM Regent, so we'll be hearing about that later. And then the last item was the transportation contract with Right Way, which again will be coming to the full board for approval, all three of which have the recommendation of the Finance Committee.
Thanks, Mark. Any questions for Mark? Seeing none, then we'll move on to the personnel report.
Yes, we have one resignation that we'd ask for board approval and two informational resignations to inform the board of. The one that we'd ask for approval for is for Mary Kay Aria, special education teacher at Grafton High School, and for informational, Shannon Fraza, special education aide at Kennedy Elementary School, and Pam Klenner, special education aide at Grafton High School.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to accept the resignation of Mary Kay Aria.
So moved.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, aye. Aye. Opposed? And it passes. Item E, WIAA membership renewal.
Yes, this is something that we do through our athletics for our high school students, that we need to have the board approve our membership in the WIA in order to continue offering the sports that we offer either through our own school or through the ones that we co-op through. So you can see for the boys' sports that we co-op for hockey, and for the girls' sports we co-op for gymnastics and hockey. But we need to have a board resolution approving our membership in the WIA.
All have seen the membership renewal form and resolution, so do I have a motion to approve the WIAA membership renewal for 2021-2022?
Second.
You got that, Kara? Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, aye. Aye. Opposed? And that passes. Next up is the Southeastern Wisconsin School Alliance membership information and contract.
Yes, another thing that our district partakes in. The SWSA serves as advocates for public education students and districts. You can see the cost is $3,200. There's a list in here of the various districts that are involved in that. They host at least monthly meetings for us to be able to engage in. I think in moving forward, some will continue to be virtual, some will be in person, but throughout the pandemic, it's been great. They've even had healthcare experts on those calls helping give feedback. So it's been a really wise use of money, keeps us up to date on current legislation, gets an opportunity to have legislators both from the Republican and Democratic side come and speak to us and hear what their thoughts on as we look at the budget. And so we recommend that the board would sign the resolution joining, or continue to stay with the SWSA.
We have a motion to adopt the resolution as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Just one question I have. I understand why South Milwaukee would have a lower rate because they are the fiscal agent. And I recall that being the case, but Elmbrook,
I think Elbrook is because is it because their board president is serving as something, if you're, or maybe, it's something to do with that. It's where it's,
Okay.
if you're actively engaged in it, then they reduce the fee.
Joe, step up.
I
Yeah.
believe that's the case.
He did say board president.
I don't know if it's, I don't know for the record, since we're on the record, I don't know if it's board president, but
Albrook has
I think you're right.
But I think it's someone who's, because it rotates, because I've noticed that every year it does rotate. South Milwaukee typically is the one who
Yeah,
pays that
fiscally.
reduced, because they do a lot of the work behind the scenes for us.
And it's, when it was in person, it was always at the Elmbrook
Yes.
School District.
And it was there.
Right.
Okay.
So there might be a partnership that goes with it, but I know there's some kind of, the work that they do that helps offset that cost.
All right, all those in favor of adoption of the resolution, aye? Aye. Opposed? And it passes. Item G, the 2021-22 property and casualty insurance renewal.
All right, as Mark referenced earlier at Finance Committee, we reviewed our renewal for 2021-22, and it is recommended from Finance and Administration that we do renew with CM Regent. We did need to find a new carrier for our workers' comp. Because we had to find a new carrier for workers' comp, and the carrier we found was CM Regent, they require that we use their other lines of coverage as well. So we are switching from Liberty to CM Regent for our lines of coverage, including workers' comp. Now, one point that we talked about is our workers' comp premium is going up based primarily on our experience mod. One thing that is also different going into next year, we can earn a premium with CM Regent, whereas we could not earn one with United Heartland. So we could earn up to a dividend up to 17% of the premium if we had no claim activity. That phases out. It's a sliding scale. It phases out at 50%. But based on the discussion we had at Finance, we are bringing a recommendation to renew our insurance coverage for next year with CM Regent.
All right. Any questions for Topher? I know we spent considerable time on this at the Finance Committee. Do I have a motion to adopt the administrative recommendation regarding the renewal of the 2021-2022 property and casualty insurance renewal?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, aye? Aye. Opposed? And it passes. Item H, enhancing our future Phase 2 proposal.
Yes, so we are pleased, administration is pleased to bring a couple of recommendations forward to the board tonight regarding, in particular, Phase 2 of the Enhancing Our Future project. Before we get into that, though, we are going to do a little bit of a review of some of the athletic facility upgrades that have occurred in recent years. As some of you will recall, in 2017, during the referendum, it was decided that the athletic facility upgrades would not be part of the 2017 referendum, and that administration, the district, would need to find other ways, other sources of funds to upgrade our athletic facilities. So we did move forward with upgrading a number of our facilities. So our soccer stadium was upgraded with a new grass field, new drainage system, as well as an irrigation system. A new fence was installed along with some netting. This was completed in time for the fall 2018 season and enhanced the playability and the safety features of the soccer field. Then we moved on to the the baseball and softball complex at John Long. One thing that was done is upgrades to the varsity fields. This included new turf infields for both varsity baseball and softball, as well as new backstops. That was completed in time for the 2020 spring season, which unfortunately did not occur. Currently underway, we have the installation of a new JV field over at the John Long Middle School campus. This is just a recent picture of that underway right now. That is scheduled to be completed in time for next spring, the spring 2022 season. Also currently underway is Phase 1 of Enhancing Our Future. Included in Phase 1 will be a new entryway, ticket booth, and plaza, as well as some track and field event spaces that are to the east of the stadium, and fencing that will go around our athletic facilities. On the right on this picture, you'll see the plaza that's going in right now. That's a ground level view of the work that is going on right now. Then lower section middle, you can see the ticket booth that is being put up right now. Again, this would be a ground level picture of the ticket booth from earlier today. You'll also notice the two tall posts to the left. That's where you'll see that'll be the two sides of the large opening that has the Kellner Field sign above it. So that's underway right now. As we move forward, we have a phase 2 and a phase 3 of enhancing our future. Phase 2 includes a new turf field for the stadium, as well as a new track for the stadium, as well as the installation of track and field event spaces both inside and outside the stadium. This is a rendering of what the turf could look like. This is not the final design, but this is a rendering of one rendering that we've been looking at. Then moving on to phase 3, that would involve at least a partial installation of a new path up to the varsity soccer field, as well as the primary piece, installation of a concession and restroom building for soccer that would be as depicted here in this picture. Now, getting back to how some of this has been financed, that the soccer project was, the board basically did apply $400,000 of fund balance to complete the soccer stadium project. Then after that was completed, the board did move forward with allocating $800,000 towards our baseball and softball facilities. Phase 1 is basically being financed through sponsorships, so that full $672,000 is covered through our sponsorships that we've secured over the past year or so. For phase 2, that's a $2 million project. We have $575,000 in our capital maintenance plan. That money is in the capital maintenance plan to cover the cost of a new grass field for the stadium. That would be about $150,000, as well as a new track, roughly $425,000. Now, if we didn't do phase 2, we would still have to do those. We would have to complete those projects. What we're doing is we're applying that against the upgrades that are part of phase 2 to help us complete that project. We also have about $40,000 on hand in sponsorships, as well as future pledged funds of about $775,000. Now that would leave us short on phase 2 by about $578,000. I'll also note that for phase 3, we do have some sponsorships that have been, we've had sponsors that have earmarked those funds specifically for soccer. In particular, something we're approving tonight is that Sendix sponsorship that would be on the concession stand. That is a soccer sponsorship. So when we look at phase 3, with the estimated $360,000 price tag, that leaves us about $250,000 short for phase 3. So with that being said, administration is bringing a couple of recommendations to you tonight that would affect funding, in particular for phase 2 of this project.
Quick question, going back to the 575 from the capital maintenance plan,
Yes.
are those funds from Fund 46 or Fund 41 or a combo? I know they were going out into the future, but
Yes,
Fund 46.
it's a combination.
Okay,
Really, once the funds are in there, I think the plan going forward is to spend down the funds that are in Fund 41. When those are done, we'll tap into Fund 46. And what we'll do in the future is put money into Fund 46 on an ongoing basis, as we've been doing. We would keep putting a small portion into Fund 41 to keep the mechanism going, to ensure the mechanism of any expenditure that occurs in Fund 41 being amortized into the future, 20-some plus years. And what we would do is we would have that ability then, if the board at some point wanted to take care of a project that would use fund balance over and above what we've budgeted for, we could put that into Fund 41 so it wasn't a one-time hit to our state aid.
Which we have already done that, right?
Yes, and so that was the 1.2 million that went to soccer, baseball, and softball. So we'd be able to have that mechanism going forward, but otherwise Fund 46 would be the primary mechanism because of its flexibility and the ability to take a look at how we finish the year and being able to allocate funds to Fund 46.
And just for clarity, the Fund 46 funds, now that we've hit that break point of 5 years, right, anything that goes in is available now.
July 1st.
July
yes,
1st,
just
yes.
days away.
Sorry.
Days away.
As long as we're on question 2, where does the 60,000 funds applied come for in phase 3?
That was from the Rotary.
Super Grafton Rotary.
Ah,
That was a sponsorship
okay,
early on in the process.
thank you.
What's the number we have in Fund 46 now?
We have well over $1 million in Fund 46. I believe it's $1.1 million in Fund 46. We had promised that we would have $1 million available by July 1st of this year. We hit that mark a year early of having at least $1 million in Fund 46. So our first recommendation tonight, as discussed in detail at the Finance Committee, with having the primary players at that meeting to answer questions, would be using our current partners that we've used for the baseball and softball fields over at John Long Middle School, currently for phase 1 here at the high school, our current partners who would then move on and do phase 2. And that would be using the Midwest Turf for our turf. And in addition, we'd be using the firms like H&H, which we're currently using, Patriot Fencing, which we're currently using, to do phase 2. So this is the same outline of the proposal that we talked about at Finance. If we were to move forward using our current partners and enter a contract, we would save $117,000 when compared to our preliminary budget that we had for phase 2. And it would lock in that savings and make sure that any future fluctuations in either material cost or the cost of labor wouldn't impact that budget negatively. So that's our first recommendation and the recommendation that came out of Finance. We also have a recommendation based on projecting where this year's budget will finish. So on the revenue side, we are projecting that revenue will finish $250,000 or 1% better than budgeted. Two primary pieces of that would be ESSER funds, which at the beginning of the year, and these are ESSER 2 funds, that wasn't passed until December, so that didn't even exist. And so we didn't expect to get those kinds of funds. So that's a big piece. And Fund 10 Medicaid, there can be years where you won't get anything. We do not budget for Fund 10 Medicaid because there's no guarantee we'll get anything. Those are prior year adjustments. And we do have a relatively large Medicaid payment that is being booked into Fund 10 this year. On the expenditure side, we're projecting to do about $350,000 better than budgeted. That's 1.4%. Primarily on things we wouldn't necessarily expect to repeat. For example, subbing costs. We did have staff, because of COVID-19 in certain situations, able to teach from home. We also did have some difficulty with securing subs, as finding subs was a challenge. But again, because of COVID, we were able to secure long-term subs through COVID funds that certainly helped us out. Open enrollment tuition, normally that's pretty close to budgeted, but we did end up having a lot of adjustments that occurred later in the year for more students open enrolling in than we had budgeted for as of third Friday. Summer school was only about half the size as the prior year in terms of the staffing. And that's really a cost that occurred last summer. Utilities came in under budget, and transportation came in under primarily because we didn't have quite as many in-person days this year. Even though we do pay a portion to Right Way, we don't pay 100%, so we have some savings there. So overall, we're projecting a $600,000 revenue over expenditures. That's about 2.4% better than budgeted. That would give us, without any other adjustments, a projected $5.2 million fund balance and a 21.3% fund balance ratio. To put that in perspective, that would be fairly similar to where we were 5 years ago when we finished the 2016-17 school year. We finished with a little over $5 million in fund balance. That was a 21.5 fund balance ratio. Following that year, the board made those moves to allocate $1.2 million of fund balance towards the soccer as well as the baseball and softball projects, which is why you see the fund balance drop down over those next 2 years. So, with all that being said, the administration is bringing forward a recommendation in light of the $400,000 allocation for soccer a number of years ago, as well as $800,000 allocation towards baseball and softball, coupled with the $575,000 that's in the capital maintenance plan, to allocate $225,000 of fund balance toward the Phase 2 stadium project, which would give us a total of $800,000 going toward that Phase 2 stadium project. If those two recommendations were accepted tonight, that would take our needed funds for Phase 2 from $578,000 down to being within $236,000 of having the funds needed for Phase 2. With that, I'll hand it off to the board for any questions and/or comments.
Any questions for Topher?
So the plan then for the funding for the balance, what would that be?
That would be continued sponsorships, donation opportunities that we have in the works.
And then at some point, it'll get out of the corporate sponsors into the individual sponsors and those types of things as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we're very close to doing that. We have a couple donors that we're working with and we have a large postcard. What would be the way I'd describe that? It's bigger than a postcard, but it's a large postcard. And we're listing the various donors that have been accepted by the board. And we have a couple that we're trying to solidify, but we are ready to send something out to the community that would start getting those individual donations that could make the various levels for the donors. So that would put us with this recommendation. That basically mean we need to raise, $290,000, or excuse me, $490,000 total to complete the next two projects. So we have 3 donors right now that I think of that are large donor potentials that we're still working with now. And in the next week, we need to make a decision if that's going to work, or we need to move forward and just get out in the community and then still continue working with them to see if they can sponsor in some way. So right now we're just working on sponsorships, which is at that, $50,000 and up, $25,000 and up, and about ready to go to the public.
Additional questions or comments? I would just say that, in the 2016 referendum, I believe it was, the village voted question 2 down by 48.2 to 51.8%, where question 2 was to go to referendum for $1.8 million to upgrade the existing soccer complex, reseed all the fields, resurface the track and field, new varsity softball field, new varsity baseball field, JV baseball and softball to the John Long Middle School complex, and 4 youth softball, baseball, Clover design expansion. I mean, the community said no to that question. We're not going to do that. But at the time, the board felt strongly that these improvements need to be made. And they went out on a limb, isn't the right word, but they made a commitment to the community that through a public-private partnership, we'd make those things happen. And it's ironic if you add up the pieces that are up there, and it's not quite in the same presentation, but if you take the $1.2 million plus for the soccer stadium and the baseball and softball complex, right? And then the next 3 for enhancing our future. 2 separate initiatives, but the total of all of those things is $4.2 million. Between the $1.2 million that we've already spent, the $225,000 that we're proposing to allocate from fund balance, and the $575,000 still remaining in Fund 46, the district's contribution to that $4.2 million will be $2 million. So almost a 50-50 ratio. It's going to be slightly higher on the private side as we get into raising money for Phase 3. So I would just say that, you know, the board's vision back in 2017 or 16, after that failed referendum, was to ensure that these things got done, to ensure that we had safe places for kids to play, to ensure that the facilities were brought up to speed and modernized to the best of our ability, and ultimately to save cost in the long term. And I think their turf and some of the other investments that we've made will save money in the long run. So, I mean, just from a historical perspective, I think that it was wise at that time for the board to make a commitment. It was reasonable for them to make a commitment with the assistance of the public, and we are grateful and thankful for what we've already received, and there's still work to do. And we'll continue to pursue all opportunities for sponsorship with the large donors, and then turn it over to, you know, the community to fund the rest. But I think overall, 2 high-impact projects that'll serve the district well for many, many, many years to come.
Couple of comments. So, I mean, with the track too, we did some patchwork to get us to where we are today. And so this investment now is really the right thing to do. We did kind of bought some time to get us here. Second point, Paul, I don't want you to forget the Fund 46 and the capital maintenance plan. That too was something that came out of the referendum loud and clear.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, what are you guys gonna do to plan for the future, facilities-wise?
Yes.
And we're not talking athletics, but all the facilities, and I think we've established that too. We've got a good plan going forward, so
That's good.
I think we've hit, you know, we listened to the community, and I think we've addressed those with this plan for the athletics and that capital maintenance plan for future maintenance of our buildings, so.
That's a great point. Any additional comments? So how do you want to take these 2 recommendations? Which one first?
Let's go ahead with accepting the proposal for completing Phase 2.
Okay. So you have before us an agreement for the synthetic turf field. Is that what you're referencing?
Yes.
Okay. Then I'd entertain a motion to approve the agreement as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? I have just one point, Topher, and it's item 4. This states that the total contract price is $1,534,000. I believe we should add that it's not to exceed $1,534,000. I think they did a great job at the Finance Committee explaining why they can offer this rate and hold that rate despite what appear to be a rising cost environment. But they did say if something were to turn dramatically in terms of either asphalt or in terms of the synthetic fibers and things used, they would be willing to share those with us to the extent there are sharing. So I think we ought to add not to exceed $1,534,000, because that was certainly their position at the Finance Committee. And then I'm assuming the In the exclusions in item 5, they're excluding the bonding. That would be covered by our contingency and our overall budgetary perspective.
If there are additional costs, yeah, we do have quite a bit of contingency built in
Yeah,
to the project that, of course, we hope we don't spend.
I would agree. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we had a place for that. All right, any additional questions?
Well, actually, one more comment or question about the payment terms that are in there too. So, I mean, we'll have the funds to make those payments, and the first one being at the time of the permits, and then when they have material on site. But we anticipate being able to meet that easily.
Yeah, and we've discussed options with our auditor about how we would pay/fund certain things if we have pledged funds ready to come in, and we need to make a payment and hold on till we get those pledged funds in to cover that cost.
Any additional questions? All right, all those in favor of the motion, aye? Aye. Opposed? And it passes. Then item number 2 is to approve the transfer of $225,000 of revenue over expenses for the 2020-2021 school year into Fund 46 for allocation to this project. Do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Got that, Karen? A second. Okay, any discussion regarding that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, aye? Aye. Opposed? And it passes. Thank you, Topher. And certainly thank all of the donors to this point and all the sponsors to this point for getting us into a position where we can let contracts for Phase 2 and keep the work going for the benefit of the students. Not just athletic, but that turf field will be used for curricular activities as well. So much appreciation to the community, to administration that's working the community, and to donors yet to sign up. Okay, item I, 2021-2022 preliminary budget approval.
Yes, so going into the first year of the biennial, at this point, as we approach the end of June, there's usually a lot of new information to share in terms of what the latest proposal might do for our budget. These are the revenue assumptions that we've been using since February, and they were essentially a worst-case scenario. That would be if revenues were flat, no new money was put in the state budget for schools. And obviously, there's been quite a bit written about the state budget and the $4.4 billion surplus, how much of that might potentially go to schools. At this point, it's expected that the legislature will vote over the next couple days on a state budget that won't provide any new spendable revenue for school districts in the upcoming school year. It would put a freeze on that revenue limit spending per member. Again, that's what we budgeted for. That would, again, have a decrease in our revenue limit of $134,000 because of our declining enrollment, or declining membership average. Also, the per pupil aid would also be frozen at that $742 per member because we have a lower membership average. That would be about an $18,000 decrease in that revenue line. We do have the increase similar to what we had as we talked about finance in May at the board meeting in May. We have the increase in open enrollment because of a smaller group graduating out and potentially being more than replaced. We are looking at a decrease in special ed categorical aid. So in the current biennium, last year called for a 26% reimbursement rate. This year called for a 30% reimbursement rate. This year only ended up working out to be 28%. The next biennium calls for a 28% reimbursement rate next year, which is what it is now. and then a 30% in the second year. But of course, that was supposed to be 30% this year as well. So right now, we're anticipating that our budgeted special ed categorical aid would need to have a decrease because it's just not meeting that 30% that it was supposed to meet this year. We also are expecting a decrease in investment income, but an increase in admissions revenue. Again, these are similar to really the same as what we had back in May, with ESSER funds being able to cover any continuing COVID costs. Should that budget go through, one option would be that the governor could attempt the line item veto to add spending for schools. That is challenging to do without new programs. So it's also possible that it could be completely vetoed, which would mean the current budget year would carry forward, which again, would be what we're budgeting for, no increase. What that would also mean is that whenever there was a new budget forecast, say in December and May, they do that every year in December and May, we've seen that in the past where they do a budget forecast, and if there's a surplus, there can be a decision as to what to do with the surplus. Or if there's a large enough deficit, they consider a budget repair bill. So unless they get together and compromise, it's possible that we could move forward frozen and then with opportunities in the future to come to a compromise to balance out tax cuts and increases to spendable money for schools to help us keep pace with the increased cost of doing business. On the expenditure side, we're using essentially the same expenditure assumptions. We've entered the high season of shifting salaries and benefits as we look at replacing staff who are not coming back for the next year. So we are using some placeholders for salaries that we don't have yet to determine. And the key thing there as well is we're assuming that all new hires will take family benefits. As we work through the process of hiring, and then as we get closer to the school year, determining what those benefits are, that will continue to shift as we move forward. I'll also point out that we do have, even though we did pre-fund our capital maintenance plan in terms of Fund 46, we do have a $56,584 transfer budgeted to Fund 46. This, of course, is less than the typical $210,000. We did pre-fund it, but it would be advantageous to get up to that $210,000 budgeted this year so that it isn't something we have to add into the following year's budget. So those are expenditure assumptions. It is a balanced budget, as it was in the May Finance and the May Board meeting. And so we look to getting this preliminary budget approved by the board tonight for use starting July 1st. Then in September, we would present the published budget at the annual meeting. And then once we get final budget numbers in October, we would finalize the budget at that October board meeting. Any questions or comments?
And we spent a fair amount of time at the Finance Committee reviewing the line level detail. Any questions or comments for Topher? If none, then I'd entertain a motion to adopt the budget, approve the preliminary budget as presented.
So moved.
Any final discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And it passes. Thank you, Topher. Keep going. You get the
Yes.
transportation
So the
contract.
final piece I have here, I don't have a presentation slide for it, but after numerous discussions at both the committee and board level, we do have a transportation contract for approval tonight. The renewal for the 2021-22 school year being a 5% renewal. That would add the GPS service called Where's My Bus, so that families would be able to track where the bus is as they are waiting for pickup in the morning, as well as track where the bus is in terms of drop-off. Then in the 2022-23 school year, the renewal would be based on CPI, the same CPI we use for determining maximum base wage increases for teachers. After that, there would be no additional year, so we would need, with approval of this, by the time next summer rolls around, and as we approach the final year of the contract, we would need to start working on negotiating a following year term for that contract to continue it moving forward beyond the 2022-23 school year. So that is brought forward tonight for approval.
Again, we've met at the Finance Committee in considerable detail with representatives from Right Way regarding the contract and regarding future renewals. Any questions for Topher? In looking through the contract, and maybe I just didn't see it, the condition that arose as a result of COVID and prolonged non-use of buses and our requirement to pay. Is that in here somewhere? Did I miss that?
It is. There should be a minimum day provision. I believe it's 176 days. And that should we fall below that, and the way they phrase it is if it's the different provisions for if it's beyond 10 consecutive days, I believe it's a 55% piece, and if it's not, it's a 65% prorated amount. And again, with that minimum day provision, I believe it's 176 days.
Now that you say that, I remember
It's
reading.
near the back.
Okay, it's covered.
Page 14, under 12, says 178 school days.
Okay.
So page 14, 12, payment, the second paragraph. And it says the company and district agreed to a guaranteed of 176. And then you see the billable piece there.
Ah, okay. Yep. Okay. All right. Any additional questions? We have a motion, or did we not? Okay. Then, if there's no additional questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agreement for transportation between the Grafton School District or School District of Grafton and Right Way Bus Service, Inc. as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any final discussion? All those in favor of the motion, aye? Aye. Opposed? And it passes. Thank you. Item K, textbook adoptions.
Hello. We had a curriculum board meeting back a couple weeks ago on June 14th. During that time, as Jill referenced earlier, teachers came and presented 3 textbooks for AP, one for AP Physics, one for Ancient History and Medieval History, same book for 2 courses, and one for welding. Actually, welding 1 and welding 2, same book for 2 courses. After presentations and questions, we recommended that we bring it to the full board for approval. So I'm asking that the board approve all 3 of those textbooks for purchase this summer and use for the next school year.
A long discussion of curriculum, but a very, I shouldn't say long, in-depth discussion of the benefits of each of these textbooks and why they are being recommended and supporting student growth in these areas. So any questions that may have arisen since then for Diana? Hearing none, then I would ask for a motion to adopt the AP Physics, the Ancient History and Medieval History, and the Welding textbooks as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, any final discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, aye? Aye. Opposed? And it passes. Once again, thank you to you and to all of the teams that participated in making the recommendations and presenting the textbooks that we'll be using into the future. It's much appreciated.
Thank you.
And then, District Library Plan is yours as well?
We're all like Topher does. Yes, so the library plan, this is in accordance with Board Policy 2522, where we have to have a long-term library plan. We presented a 3-year library plan. Jennifer Griffith was there. The plan was written originally by myself and her, and then taken to a committee of teachers, library personnel, principals, and technology leadership, with Rick sitting on that committee as well, looking over the plan. In discussion at the curriculum committee, Jennifer will come back with Michael at the next curriculum committee, August, September, whenever that is, and show the board the scope and sequence of the library lessons for the elementary, particularly related to digital citizenship. So that is going to come back to the board. Those are housed in Canvas. And so we are asking tonight, or I am asking tonight for approval of that long-term library plan.
Again, a detailed and thorough presentation of that plan. Any questions for Diana? Then I would entertain a motion to adopt the district library plan as presented.
Second.
Any final discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, aye? Aye. Opposed? It passes. Diana said, you said you were going to stick around as long as Topher, right? I did hear that, and it's out there on the record, so you're stuck now. But thank you very much.
So I wanted to take this moment. So this was my last board report, and my last day today. So I was going to write something so I wouldn't get emotional, but I like to get emotional sometimes, so I'm going to try not to. I just want to thank the board for your support over the 6 years I've been here in Grafton. I've learned a lot, I've grown a lot. I feel like we've done a lot, and we're really proud of the work we've done. You've always been very supportive of teaching and learning and curriculum, and I really appreciate that. We have amazing teachers here. I have worked with many of them at all levels. They're dedicated, they are hardworking, they've made it through this last year and prior with grace and flexibility, and they've really made our district proud. The administrative team is fabulous. It's the best team I've ever worked on or with, and I appreciate every one of them and will miss them, but I know that I've made friends. And to Jeff, I just want to say thank you for helping me grow and be the best that I could be. So I just wanted to take this moment to really thank you guys and to let you know that I will always hold Grafton with strong love and respect, and I know it'll continue to be an outstanding district. And if I were going to choose one, if my kids were little again and I could do it over, that I would definitely choose Grafton. And I know others will as well. So again, thank you for everything, and it's been a real pleasure to work for you.
Thank you, Diana. Your work has been remarkable. Your contributions to the district have been extraordinary, and I had a moment with you at the curriculum committee and got emotional as well. And I think that's okay, because we are passionate about what we do, and the emotion reflects that passion. And it's appropriate to be emotional, especially at this high note, as we wish you well and all good things in future endeavors for you. And thank you for your tremendous contributions over the years. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana.
Student overnight trip request.
Yes, we'd ask the board to approve the request for the Grafton dance team attending the Just for Kicks dance camp at St. Norbert College. And it's on July 7th and returning on July 10th. You can see the coaches that will be attending, as well as the students that are participating. It's their sort of preseason kickoff to their season as they go almost year-round with this commitment that they have. And you can see that they've done, they offer individual fundraising for it, the cost that goes with it and so forth. We would ask the board to approve this request.
So do I have a motion to approve the overnight trip request as presented? Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, aye. Aye. Opposed? And it passes. Gift report.
Yes, we would ask the board to accept the gift from Aurora Healthcare. Haley Nenenan is the contact person for us for Project Lead the Way Biomedical Science. Aurora has been a long time contributor to our PLTW program, whether it's at the white coat ceremonies, as well as making donations such as this. So they have donated $2,500, which pays for our participation fee in the PLTW biomedical course. So we'd ask the board for approval for that $2,500.
Motion to approve the gift as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, aye. Aye. Opposed? And it passes with our continued appreciation to Aurora for their commitment to our Project Lead the Way Biomedical Science courses and in general to their support of the school district. It is remarkable, and we do appreciate it.
We'll send a letter thanking them on behalf of the board as well.
Thank you. Item O, enhancing our future sponsorship updates.
Yes, so we're pleased to bring two more donations or sponsors opportunities to the board for approval. This will bring us to about $1.6 million that we've raised. So we think starting back in, I think it was October of 2018, as we started working with Acuity, with that $400,000 donation way back then. And then obviously Ted Kellner stepping forward with his $750,000 matching donation has really been, those two donations have really got us moving in the right direction. And with Ted's $750,000 matching one, we've matched now about $500,000 of that. So that leaves about another $250,000 to raise. One of the things that we talked at finance that we didn't mention in the presentation was our goal will be to raise that $250,000 by December of this year. So we appreciate the board, accepting the cost savings that we have as well as putting extra money towards the project. Our goal will be to close out Ted's $750,000 matching donation by December of this year. But we now bring two different ones to you for quality landscaping for $11,876 for an in-kind donation for our Phase 1 project. Mark DuBois is the contact person with that, and a Grafton grad, as well as we have a $50,000 silver level sponsorship from Sendix with Patrick Ballesteri as the owner there. You saw Topher use the rendering. That isn't the final rendering of what will be on the concessions, but it's just a rendering of what it could look like. But that's where their donation would be going towards the signage for the concession stand.
All right, then I would entertain a motion to accept the sponsorship elements as presented.
So moved.
Any further any questions? All right, all those in favor of the motion, aye. Aye. Opposed? And it passes again with our many thanks for the support of this project. Okay, then we'll move on to item 5 here. The Board of Education will convene in closed session to consider specific personnel problems which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data or involved in such problems or investigations in order to discuss a parent complaint. This is in accordance with Wisconsin State Statutes 1985, Section 1, Sub F. We'll take a voice vote on moving into closed.
I'm sorry.
Oh, wait, motion, sorry, we need a motion to adjourn into closed.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we need a voice vote then.
Sean,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Yes.
and yes.